Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Case for Construction Culture podcast, balancing safety with profitability. I'm with Cal Beyer, a dear friend of mine for the last 5+ years, who I feel like is a fellow missionary in the world of healthy culture and mental health and all kinds of things. Welcome to the show, Cal.
Thank you, Tom. Great to be with you. And I
Yeah,
echo that friendship we have. I enjoy you
yes.
a lot.
Yes, really, it's just been very, very rich. Though from a distance, I feel like we're brothers, but are almost neighbors. I just feel like our hearts and our souls are very aligned with the work we do, even though it's somewhat different. Cal, if you don't know already, is the senior director of workplaces within the Safe Project organization, and he's been part of Cobb's Trekker, been part of Holmes Murphy. He's been dedicated for decades on an issue that for many of us, for me included, has only come alive in the last 5 or 6 years. And I credit you, Cal, and I think many of those that I've interviewed on here have been impacted positively by you. People like Mandy Kime, people like Brandon Anderson, Brent Darnell, and many others that have been on the show have been impacted by you. So that's your role. And I really want to take a chance, take this opportunity to talk with you about your work and especially how it impacts culture in the construction world that can sometimes be unfriendly to healthy lives and healthy mental lives. I'm curious about your own vulnerability, Cal, because you are a vulnerable guy. You're a grounded, strong person in many ways, but you're also open and very vulnerable and very much a person with an open heart, I believe. And you've shared publicly that that's important, that vulnerability is important to you in your own experience with opioid use and misuse as a teenager, following multiple knee surgeries. I'm about ready to have one in a couple of years, Cal. We'll have to talk to make sure I don't get lured by any funny opioids. But I also remember a post on LinkedIn when you talked about your decision to be alcohol free and achieving the 1 year mark. Tell us a little bit why this lived experience is so important to you and to your work.
Um, and I'll definitely help you when you have that surgery. There'll be people I can point you to,
Thank
resources I
you.
can share.
Thank you.
An opioid free, opioid sparing surgery experience is possible. I did learn the importance of vulnerability from my parents. They sat me down when I was 12, talked about mental health and substance use challenges on both sides of the family tree. It took me 6 years before I found another classmate who'd had that same experience of parents being open. And that vulnerability taught me well. There's only been one time in my adult life that I haven't spoken with absolute vulnerability. And it was when I was trying to launch the Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Initiative. I was afraid if I shared my lived experience with opioid use, misuse, and abuse as a teenager, people would question what's the wisdom of this guy and why are we going to follow him if he
Mhm.
had this addiction challenge?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
didn't open up until about 2018 or 19, and definitely in the pandemic became much more open about that personal lived experience. The choice on alcohol was one of those yo-yo decisions up and down, and I was battling, do I need to be abstinent to be credible in my work, or is abstinence a choice I want to make? And ultimately I used something called moderation management, and then I used an app that allowed me to set goals and to track my consumption and build in accountability. I asked a couple of friends to be accountability partners, and the process became easy. And Tom, ultimately, I made a decision that yes, the health effects of alcohol concern me. Before I get to retirement, the quicker I quit, the better I'll feel and the healthier I will be going into retirement. So it's a personal choice. I did post on LinkedIn, tremendous response, incredible support from people. And I wish I'd done that 20 years earlier. I feel better. I'm sleeping better. I still haven't lost the magic 40 pounds I was hoping to, but by all accounts, I'm moving in the right direction. And I'm very, very happy to have made that choice.
Hmm. It's awesome, Cal. It's inspiring. A lot of people are actually posting and talking about that very thing. alcohol, even though I do enjoy a good bourbon or a margarita now and again, I know it's not a health food, and I know my liver and my whole body would be a little happier if I could give it up completely. I'm not there yet, Cal, but you may inspire me to get there one day. Um, and I've heard you
Well, thank you,
describe
Tom.
the, oh, go ahead. Yeah,
No, thank you for that. I appreciate your support.
you're welcome. I've heard you describe the drug-free workplace policies, even though they're well-intentioned, they can actually be a challenge that impacts expanding a culture of recovery in the industry. Do you have some thoughts about that we could hear?
Yeah, Tom, I spent 30 years as a risk and safety professional. The early years of my career in the insurance industry, and then I went to work for a contractor responsible for risk management and safety. And early in my career, Drug Free Workplace Act came out in 1988. And many of us were champions of the importance of teaching people about substance use prevention. It definitely started out with well intended motives. The challenge became when we broadly instituted drug testing, it led to people not seeking help. People
Hmm.
became fearful of their jobs and the adverse consequences.
Hmm.
And so in the insurance industry, I was one of those people who was a crusader teaching owners of projects, large general contractors, how to institute those programs, and then partnered with insurance partners, laboratories, testing agencies, and the labor unions. And what I saw was surprising to me. Some people who refused to test or failed to test did not necessarily get tracked for help. And after seeing that for several years, I started really learning more about employee assistance programs. I started looking at those member assistance programs in unions, but really started identifying who were some of the leaders in this area. What could we learn from them so we could help more people? And it was disturbing for me, Tom, to recognize that a lot of my personal crusade about the importance of drug testing might have harmed individuals. And I wanted to rectify that by creating sensitivity that we need pathways to offering people support.
Yeah, being a leader can be a challenge, can't it, Cal? We don't always know the impact of the good, well-intentioned things we do. Sometimes they have a different kind of impact, especially in the culture like construction, where there can be a sort of a black and white perception of things. And yet the world of recovery and the world of mental wellness is can be a gray rainbow world of a lot of different colors and nuances. And um, sounds like that's been a challenge. I'm curious what do you see as kind of the next wave, the next thing that we need to do in the construction industry related to mental health and suicide? Because a lot of us have just sort of recently, last 5 to 10 years, realized how big of a problem this is. We're beginning to do some things here in Minnesota. That we host a big mental health summit in December that you and I have seen each other at. But what are you
Yes.
seeing as like what do we need to do next, or what do we need to keep doing, especially those of us who are kind of aware, like, yes, this is huge. We're number two, right? Number two industry in the country, I think, construction, right? For suicides, Cal, or something
Yes,
close to
Tom.
it.
And we need to recognize that there is an intersection between substance use, mental health, the idea of co occurring disorders, and then think about the intersection of mental health, substance use, and suicide, and even overdose. Our industry has the highest rate of overdose, and we need to extend the same attention that we're giving to suicide to substance use prevention, and then creating pathways for people to pursue recovery support. That would be huge. And we're doing more and more of this work. It's what brought me to national nonprofit SAFE Project.
Hmm.
And SAFE is a 501c3 nonprofit committed to overcoming the addiction epidemic in the US. It's
Hmm.
existed since 2017, and we have 4 established portfolios that we provide education on for substance use, mental health, overdose prevention, and recovery. And those 4 initiatives are campuses, communities, workplaces, and veterans. So it's been powerful. And I'm learning so much from my colleagues in each of those other initiatives. And we still have a ways to catch up where we're at in communities, in campuses.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of work to still do, Tom, but I'm excited to make this a cultural initiative like you've described.
Hmm.
So we have to create the same awareness around substance use prevention, look at holistic strategies, and then build policies and protocols that will be flexible to accommodate people in recovery. And one of those is the recovery friendly workplace. It's recognizing that 70% of people in recovery are working in workplaces. And if we could be supportive of their efforts for recovery and their family members and friends, we have an opportunity to make this a workforce development initiative. And that would be good for an industry that's missing 500,000 workers. We're spending a lot of time recruiting people to our industry. This is an opportunity to build a way to expand our labor pool rather than discriminating against people who've experienced substance use disorder, addiction, and give people a path towards supporting their recovery.
Hmm. Boy, you're so articulate on this, Cal. It's so clear that you've spent so many years thinking about this, and I think you nailed it. And I have nowhere near your awareness of how complex all these different things are: recovery, substance abuse, mental health, suicide. And I know the construction industry very well. So many
Yes.
men and women do use substances to manage pain, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain. I have a friend who still labors every day. He's 68, owns his own construction company down in Michigan,
Wow.
um, drinks heavily to manage physical pain. He's in physical pain all the time. Uh, it's hard. This is a hard message to deliver. And I relate very much to you in some of my work, in that I feel like I'm sometimes preaching a hard to hear message in a culture that isn't opening their arms saying, "Oh, come on in, Cal, help us be recovery friendly. Hey, come on in, help us drink." It's more like, "Come on, Cal, get over it. We're going to have a few beers. We're going to have a few bourbons. Yeah, the guy takes a few
Yeah.
opioids." That's kind of the attitude sometimes in some of our cultures, isn't it? Could you tell a story or two, if you have one, about some success or positive impact in the midst of that challenging culture, either a positive happening or a
Yeah.
potential opening that you see?
Um, uh, for International Overdose Awareness Day, Safe Project partnered with the National Safety Council on a webinar. And we got to focus on companies that are embracing naloxone in job sites as a harm reduction emergency first aid method.
No
And over the
loxone?
last
What's it called?
naloxone, also known as Narcan,
Oh,
and
yeah,
naloxone is
yeah,
the antidote for opioids to make
yeah,
reversal to
yeah.
hopefully save lives.
Narcan,
And
no,
it was
yeah.
powerful to have 6 different companies that we could feature as having done this. One of those companies was Schumett Design and Construction in Boston, Dimeo Construction in Providence. The next year, it was the Building Trades Recovery Week and the Building Trades Employers Association in Boston. And
Mhm.
now, in conjunction with the Massachusetts Building Trades Council. But more close to home in Minnesota, Ryan Companies came to one of those summits in Minnesota. The CEO for Safe Project, Jeff Horwitz, presented, and Brian Murray, a big champion for construction mental health, contacted Safe Project, and lo and behold, they're rolled out naloxone company-wide. I want to give you a couple success stories. Vulcan Materials Corporation, or company, excuse me, has over 550 operating facilities. They stocked naloxone in all of their locations.
Wow.
They wanted it to be available in case of use. And that has led to so many companies reaching out and asking for support. And I'll give you one other story. It's a company out of Ohio that I know called Valley Interior Systems. Their safety director, Chris Sanders, has become a very, very close friend and just a great ally.
Hmm.
He said, Cal, by us teaching our staff why we're putting naloxone on job sites to help reverse the effects of an overdose,
Hmm.
we've already had conversation with employees to teach them about non-opioid alternatives for on and off the job injuries, for
Hmm.
medical, dental, and surgical procedures. And they're
Wow.
also teaching about the importance of disposing leftover medications to protect our families and our loved ones in our homes. So that's what happens when we take out the stigma, talk about this, offer practical solutions, and offer people help and guidance. So I hope that's the type of example that you wanted me to share.
That is an awesome example. Did you say 550 locations?
Yes, for Vulcan Materials
That
Company.
Vulcan Materials, where are they based again?
So the environmental health and safety team is based in Birmingham, Alabama.
Alabama.
And I've got an article on the safeproject.us website that is an interview of Chad McDougall, their VP of EH&S,
Mm,
and incredible leader. He gives credit to two of his teammates who did yeoman's work to get that done.
mhm,
Um, Tim Driscoll and Lee Travis, and they offered to share that story to help inspire others. It
mhm,
was a powerful message.
mm. It's an
I'm just
awesome
so
story.
excited. And there are so many larger companies ready to roll out on 1/1. So naloxone is one part of becoming a recovery friendly workplace. But
Yeah.
Tom, our work won't be done until we're talking to workers about health,
Mhm,
tobacco, vaping,
mhm,
alcohol.
mhm,
It's easier for us to talk about opioids and overdose prevention than
mhm,
it is those issues.
mhm.
That's how we know we have a substance use challenge. And that's
Yeah.
why we need this to be the cultural change you're trying to drive in the industry.
Yeah. It's brilliant. And in my experience, Cal, these companies like Vulcan who make a huge commitment at times, and correct me if I'm wrong, something has gone bad. It's like you don't get a stoplight on a corner until there's a couple accidents. Often, and I don't know the story at all, and I don't need to, but often these companies who make a big commitment have someone in leadership or a friend of theirs in the industry who has died or suffered, or maybe five people have overdosed at a large company, and then they make the commitment. Is there anything you could say to those companies that haven't had the crisis, haven't had the suicide, but they're worried? I mean, one of my customers had a guy drive off the fifth floor of a building. They're quite sure it's a suicide. They can't prove it. They don't know it. They're quite sure it is. And they haven't really engaged yet, Cal. They haven't done anything yet. What would you say to a company like that or others that yeah, it seems like that's an issue, but we're okay for now? What do you say or do in that situation, Cal?
People are people, and people everywhere are hurting. There's increased stress, there's financial pressures, there's schedule pressures and demands on jobs. There's a lot of fatigue, there's burnout, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Mhm.
So don't think you're immune and just take an open mind and look around. Are there people that need the conversations that I know Mandy Kime and Brandon Anderson and Brent Darnell have talked about?
Mhm.
I'm so proud of them as helpers in this industry. We talked
Mhm.
about building this army of helpers, but we need everyone to realize that these are human capital challenges and people are a core asset. And our industry is building caring cultures to let people know it's okay to not be okay, and that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. So, Tom, that's so important. and then recognize the exposure. One of the things that led Vulcan Materials to recognize the need, it might not be our employees, but we also have 12 million visitors to our locations, customers, haul
Mhm.
truck drivers, many other individuals. Let's have the protection available. They saw it as exposure. They saw
Mhm.
it as providing leadership and to set an example for the industry. They participated in the NIOSH Mine Safety Partnership and in the Mental Health Initiative. They felt as leaders, we're going to take a stand. And they saw the research, they saw the data, they saw that mining and construction had the highest rates of overdose. So
That's
they took action. That's what we need. That's what leaders do. They set the pace. And the companies that I identified today all were willing to be at the forefront. And now they've had the successes by having their program in place. So think about the consequences of not being prepared, of not having naloxone and not having people trained to use it. It's going to create a big disruption. Make it part of your emergency preparedness and be professional and be part of the gold standard for human health.
I love the answer, Cal, especially what you said at the beginning. People are people. They're going to do what they do. We know the cultures that we're working in, and everybody's hurting. Here in Minneapolis, we just had a shooting last week. 19 people shot, two young children died, others in
Yes.
critical conditions still. The world is in a lot of pain from a lot of different angles, Cal, and I really admire your huge commitment on this topic and how you are really shaping a movement that I'm watching unfold that I think is exciting. There's plenty more to do. But if people want to join your movement and what you and many others are doing together, where could they go to find you or find organizations you feel are valuable? Any thoughts about that as we wrap it up here?
Yes, Tom, I know your audience is nationwide. The AGC of America, Mental Health, Substance Use, Suicide Prevention Task Force has done some great work. The Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention, Sonia Bowman, has been a tremendous leader.
Mm-hmm.
I helped start that group back in 2016
Mm-hmm.
and find us at Safe Project, www.safeproject.us. And people can reach me at CAL, at safeproject.us. Join the cause, look at our no shame pledge, look at the resources that we're developing that talk about prevention, treatment, and recovery options. Take away the stigma so people will know it's okay to get help. And Tom, together we're stronger. So reach out if you want to learn more about any of the topics that we talked about today. And I just appreciate you talking about recovery as a strategy for construction culture.
You're welcome, Cal. I appreciate your kind and vulnerable presence, your courage, your understanding of how change happens, your patience, and your consistency on this topic. It is inspiring. So thank you for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank
Blessings,
you,
many
Tom.
blessings to you and to so many of us who are doing this work. But I really want to recognize and thank you, Cal, for all you've done and what you've inspired me to do. And I rarely do a workshop or a conference or a keynote without mentioning mental health and suicide. It's in 9 out of 10 of the things I'm doing these days, and you are one of the main reasons. So I have a lot of gratitude to you, and partly because this issue has touched my own life in a variety of ways. And we'll save that for
It
the
sure
next
has.
podcast, Cal. I hope we can have you on again. But for now, unless there's a final thought you have here as we're wrapping up,
No, Tom, your vulnerability is what makes you so effective. We've seen as you've leaned in and grown in this area, the influence you have, the way you call out other leaders for their support. Powerful. It's one of the things that makes you a humble servant leader and someone that I'm proud to call a friend and a collaborator. So thank you for all your hard work as well.
you're welcome, Cal. It's
Thank
mutual.
you, Tom.
Thank you. All right, Cal. Until next time.